And with this, we can already go to the first really important tool in Blender for modeling, and this is the Extrude tool. This is also the first thing you will find here. The shortcut for this is E, and it can be remembered very well. Of course, you can also click here and then click on this. Personally, I think this makes very little sense. Using the shortcut is a lot quicker. Besides, if you know the key commands, you don't have to fidget around on the left side of the screen all the time. Now, as you can see, I have the Extrude function completely free in my hands, but that's kind of inconvenient as we only want to do it on the Z-axis, so only up. So we press Z, and it locks it to the Z-axis. And then I can say, for example, that I want to extrude it up to here for my own sake, and then it should be fine. We can scale that up and down now, and you can already guess what's going to happen. I'll go into the side view, G, Z, a little rounder, maybe a little rounder scales. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So now again, we go for extrusion here again on the Z-axis, but this time downwards, and we want to scroll it bigger again. And then I do the whole thing again, E, Z, and then we go down here and press S and scale again and clean it a bit again. Bam! Very nice. So now we have a bit of a rim up here on our mug, but it's pretty sharp. What we can do with this now is this time select both here, and maybe even the one below as well, and then press Q for edge loops again. And now we come to the next important tool. This is the so-called bevel tool. The shortcut for the bevel tool is a little bit wild. That's the Shift spacebar to open that menu here. Shift spacebar opens up that menu, and then Command B for the bevel tool. And then we have these little handles here in the middle, which we can then pull, but not too far. Because we're pulling too far, then our geometry becomes catastrophic. We want to pull just far enough so that nothing overlaps here. Let's put it up here. And now if I hold left and scroll up with the scroll wheel, then we can create a curve here, so to speak. And that's exactly what we want. Very nice. So now we have created the basis for our cup, but we can still see that the whole thing doesn't look so great everywhere here. That has something to do with the shading. We can fix that by right-clicking and picking Shade Smooth. And you can see it fixed it somewhat, but it's still a bit wild. We go to the object data properties on the right under normal and go for auto smooth, and we no longer have the problem. So at the bottom we want our face to go up a little bit, like inside the cup, as you know from these cups. And for that we want to use another tool. It's called the Inset Faces tool, and the tool is also super important and very interesting, and you can do a lot with it. That means we now press Shift and Spacebar and we have the Inset Faces tool. In fact, it makes no difference at all if we press Shift Space at all here or select it in the sidebar, but I still think it's cool that if you work with the shortcuts and get more familiar with Blender. As I said, if we use the tool now, you'll see this face here gets pushed over here, and it only gets pushed up to a certain point. Why isn't it pushed all the way to the top? Whoever asked this question should really turn on their brains right now, because we can now simply select this face and make it bigger and smaller. That's why the face doesn't go all the way in, but only up to 75% or so, and the rest you have to do with normal scaling with a heavy heart. Small fun fact, funnily enough, actually this question I get in classes a lot. Why doesn't the tool go all the way to the inside? And then I just like to call on people to turn on their own heads, and then it usually knocks them down. If we just delete the face for a moment, simply because we don't need it at the moment, we will select one of these edges again. Press Q, edge loops, and then we press E, and we press Z. In order to extrude the whole thing a bit on the Z-axis, we'll take a quick look at it from the side. Because it's so easy to work with this way, we'll do it outward first. You can also push it up a bit again if it went a bit too far. Then we get an extrusion on the Z-axis, press again, make it a little bit smaller, make it so small that it actually fits into our cup from below, and now we draw an extrusion on the Z-axis that's a little up. So, and now we have this setup here, so to speak, and we now also want our cup to be closed from below, even if you won't necessarily see that later in the rendering. But as far as the light is concerned, it will make a difference. To create a face between the points that you have selected, you only have to press the F, which stands for fill. So you select the points, you press F, and presto, there you go, you built yourself a face. It's that easy if you know the shortcuts. Also a small note if you haven't seen it yet. After each section, there's a small PDF with all the important shortcuts and small pictures, so you don't have to remember everything right away. But maybe you can forget one or the other, and then you can look again afterwards. For example, that you know that F is the command for filling. I figured this would make things a little bit easier so you don't have to stress yourself out completely while watching the video, but most importantly, you don't lose the fun of it, because that's very important to me personally. A lot of people think Blender is tough stuff though. Blender is just here to have fun with you, and that's what I want to convey with this course. In any case, enough emotional ramblings. We now choose these three edges here. We press Q, edge loops, and now we've also selected these three edge loops with it. Shift, spacebar, Command B for the bevel tool. We grab the sides and we pull them out a little bit. Again, be careful not to overlap anything. There we are. Scroll the mouse wheel up, let go, bam, and we've made ourselves the bottom of our mug really nice now. So it's not like we don't have sharp edges, because sharp edges don't exist in nature. That is why most things with a sharp edge by default are not photorealistic. This is one of the main concepts that you should keep in mind when working with Blender. Really put your focus on it. So yeah, there we go. Our basic cup shape is already quite good with that. What we need now is a lid and a straw.